But before Caitlin Clark's season-ending injury, WNBA tickets were averaging $89. The moment she went down, price crashed nearly 30%, plummeting to $62 a seat. That's kind of crazy. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but obviously the biggest reason...
When news broke that Caitlin Clark would miss the rest of the season due to injury, the impact was immediate and brutal. Just before the announcement, the average ticket to a WNBA game was going for around $89. But once the update went public, the market didn't just react, it spiraled. Ticket prices plunged almost 30% in a matter of hours, dropping to just $62 per seat. This wasn't a minor market correction. It was a signal flare, a harsh wake-up call that revealed just how much of the league's recent momentum was riding on a single player. With Clark sidelined, the financial foundation began to crack, and what once looked like a rising empire suddenly appeared alarmingly unstable. What we're seeing now isn't just a dip in demand, it's the unraveling of a narrative. The WNBA's booming success story, long championed as a turning point, is now under serious scrutiny. And without its brightest star, the league is facing a stark reality. The support structure may not have been as solid as it seemed.
WNBA and the Indiana Fever did not want people to know that Caitlin Clark was going to be out for the season. I can tell you, from the very day that they decided to let that go public, everything has dropped off a cliff. Views on this channel, the television ratings, the interest, Thanos snapped out of existence. People were trying to hang on to the possibility this whole time. Look, so many people stayed engaged with the team because they thought the cavalry was coming.
But the drop in ticket prices was just the tip of the iceberg. Beneath the surface, a far more revealing crisis was unfolding, marked not by noise, but by a deafening silence. Just weeks ago, the WNBA was everywhere. You couldn't turn on a sports show without hearing Caitlin Clark's name. She dominated headlines on ESPN's First Take, fueled heated segments on FS1's The Herd, and became the center of non-stop discussion across every sports podcast and panel in the country. The buzz was constant, and the spotlight seemed unshakable. But the moment she went down, the conversation didn't shift, it vanished. Media coverage dried up almost overnight, replaced by silence where there had once been non-stop hype. The league's visibility didn't just fade, it practically disappeared from the national conversation. This sudden media blackout speaks volumes. It wasn't just that one player was gone. It was that the story driving the league's surge had vanished with her, and with it, much of the attention that had put the WNBA at center stage.
July. The WNBA proudly flaunted ratings for the All-Star Game, which drew 2.2 million viewers. Of course, they conveniently failed to mention that ratings were down 36% from the record ratings that Caitlin Clark pulled the year before. Early August, ESPN pointed out that the Seattle Spankers and the Indiana Felines, without Caitlin Clark, drew 1.6 million on ABC. ESPN claimed that WNBA ratings were up 20% over last year, mostly without Caitlin Clark playing. But over the last 3 or 4 weeks, both the WNBA and the media have been strangely silent. I wonder...
Prominent voices in sports media, like Colin Cowherd and Jason Whitlock, who had once devoted entire segments to unpacking the Caitlin Clark phenomenon, quickly pivoted. The in-depth breakdowns, the passionate takes, the daily debates, they stopped almost instantly. The media engine that had been running at full throttle suddenly stalled. What followed was more revealing than any headline: silence. A subtle, unspoken acknowledgement echoed across networks and platforms. The truth wasn't shouted, it was quietly confirmed. The media hadn't thrown its weight behind the WNBA itself. It had rallied around one person. Clark wasn't just part of the narrative, she was the narrative. And now, with her off the court, the league has slipped back into the margins. The enthusiasm, the coverage, the so-called commitment, it all faded just as fast as it had arrived. This wasn't just a shift in focus. It was a spotlight being shut off, exposing just how conditional that attention really was.
The WNBA are currently treading dangerous waters. It's sharks out there, y'all. It is sharks out there in the deep ends of that water. Reality is hitting, and the playoffs have the potential to expose even more. Ratings could potentially crash in this year's WNBA playoffs without Caitlin Clark. Networks have their eyes peeled to what is going on, and ticket prices plummeted 30% while Caitlin Clark was out with her.
Media silence was loud enough, but what the numbers revealed was far more alarming. Beneath the surface of the headlines, the real story was written in cold, hard data. And the numbers didn't whisper, they screamed. While Caitlin Clark was on the floor, the WNBA was enjoying a historic surge. Games regularly drew over 1.8 million viewers, with some broadcasts even topping the 2 million mark. Those weren't just impressive numbers, they were competitive with major men's leagues, signaling what many hoped was a true breakthrough moment. But once Clark was sidelined, that momentum collapsed. Viewership didn't just dip, it nosedived. In her absence, the league is now struggling to attract even 200,000 sets of eyes. That's not a minor fluctuation. That's a full-scale retreat. These figures don't lie. They reveal just how fragile the league's rise was, and how deeply it was tethered to one individual. With Clark gone, the ratings tell a harsh truth. The spotlight that once burned so brightly is now barely flickering.
She's only on one team, but a very big chunk of the total attendance in WNBA is from the Indiana Fever. They have the second highest home attendance, and teams are literally moving arenas. So yeah, a lot of teams, whether it be the Lynx opening the Upper Bowl, whether it be the Wings, the Dream, the Sky, all of these teams moving games. All of these teams are moving games for the Indiana Fever, regardless of who it is. They all have to sell those seats. And a lot of people don't want to go, and it's super cheap. Like, it's a lot easier to fill a 10,000 seat arena without Caitlin Clark than to fill 20,000. So you're going to have to find a way to do it anyway, which is what a lot of people are going to be doing, trying to sell tickets.
This isn't just a dip in viewership, it's a free fall. An 89% collapse doesn't suggest a struggling product, it signals a total loss of relevance. When a nationally televised professional sports league can't draw more viewers than a late-night sitcom rerun, it's no longer just a ratings issue, it's a credibility crisis. And then, something even more unsettling started to unfold. One of the most trusted authorities in sports media metrics, Sports Media Watch, suddenly went quiet. In August, with numbers dropping off a cliff, they stopped publishing WNBA viewership data altogether. Just like that, the stats disappeared. It wasn't a technical error. It wasn't a routine delay. It felt calculated. A red flag. The kind of silence that doesn't suggest a lack of news, but a motive to keep the news hidden. When an industry that lives and dies by transparency in numbers starts withholding data, it raises a serious question. What don't they want the public to see? The absence of those numbers speaks volumes, and what it suggests is a media blackout designed not to protect the league, but to shield the narrative.
The WNBA playoffs begin on Sunday. Have you noticed that no one is talking about it? This time last year, the WNBA was dominating talk shows on ESPN and FS1. Content creators on YouTube were flooding the platform with WNBA videos. This year, it's complete silence. Obviously, ratings for the playoffs are going to be a flaming ass fire. But if I'm the WNBA, I am concerned.
But no matter how tightly the ratings were kept under wraps, there was one thing that couldn't be hidden: the empty seats. The most telling proof wasn't in spreadsheets or reports. It was right there on camera, rows and rows of vacant chairs inside once-packed arenas. Not long ago, WNBA tickets were among the hottest in sports. The surge in demand led teams to make a bold move, relocating home games from their smaller, regular venues to full-sized NBA arenas, some seating upwards of 20,000. It was a high-stakes shift, a massive logistical and financial gamble made for one reason: Caitlin Clark. And for a while, it worked. Those bigger arenas were packed. Fans showed up in droves, eager for a chance to witness the rookie sensation in action. The league was riding a wave unlike anything it had seen before, and Clark was undeniably the engine driving it. But with her gone, the gamble backfired. Those same arenas now echo with emptiness, a stark reminder of how quickly the momentum vanished. What was once a sold-out spectacle has started to look like a scrimmage played behind closed doors.
We talked about Jason Whitlock disowning the WNBA. True to his word, hasn't spoken a lick about the WNBA since. Colin Cowherd trashing the WNBA. It's Caitlin Clark and only Caitlin Clark. Last year, he used to lead shows talking Caitlin Clark, talking WNBA. This year, with her injury, didn't even bother wasting more than 10 minutes talking about the WNBA this year. No Shanae, no Elle Duncan, no Monica McNutt, none of those.
Now, those same teams are being forced to confront a hard and humbling truth. Even playoff games, the league's most high-stakes, high-profile events, are struggling to draw a crowd. Tickets, once scarce and selling at premium prices, are now going for as little as $25. And yet, thousands of seats still sit untouched. Inside these arenas, the energy has evaporated. The upper sections are nearly deserted, leaving wide, empty stretches of gray seats. The electric atmosphere that once shook the rafters has been replaced with silence and scattered applause. What was supposed to be the pinnacle of the season now feels more like a preseason warm-up. The harsh reality is this: the WNBA's recent surge wasn't fueled by a growing, loyal fan base. It was powered by a singular force, a traveling phenomenon named Caitlin Clark. She didn't just elevate interest, she was the interest. And without her in the lineup, the league's ability to hold national attention is quickly unraveling. This wasn't sustainable growth. It was a spotlight act. And now that the spotlight has moved, what's left behind is a league struggling to fill the void.
For nationally televised games have mysteriously disappeared. I knew the WNBA lived in a world of make-believe, but I never realized they were magicians. It seems when ratings fail to meet expectations, the WNBA makes ratings disappear faster than pants at the Butt Bongo Festival. Sports Media Watch, which is the go-to source for sports ratings, Sports Media Watch, they have not updated WNBA ratings since August.
What makes this entire collapse even more frustrating is the simple truth that it didn't have to happen. Caitlin Clark's season-ending injury wasn't just an unfortunate twist of fate, it was the foreseeable outcome of a situation that had been spiraling for weeks. This wasn't bad luck. It was the consequence of inaction. From the moment she made her WNBA debut, Clark faced a level of physical contact that clearly crossed the line from competitive defense into something far more dangerous. Game after game, she absorbed hits that looked more like statements than strategy, fouls that pushed the limits, with little intervention to stop them. It was a storm building in plain sight. And yet, instead of stepping in to protect one of the league's most valuable players, league officials, referees, and leadership appeared hesitant to act. Whether out of fear of controversy or a desire to let them play, the result was the same: Clark was left vulnerable. Her injury wasn't just a blow to her season, it was the breaking point in a series of preventable failures. And now, the league is paying the price for ignoring the warning signs.
You know, them Caitlin Clark tickets was hard to get your hands on. It don't matter if she was playing in LA, Indiana, Atlanta, Seattle. It did not matter. Afghanistan. It didn't matter. It was hard to get your hands on a Caitlin Clark ticket. Y'all see how many people showed up in Iowa? They could have filled up a football stadium. A football stadium. Super Bowl. Yeah, that is the demand for.
Caitlin Clark wasn't just playing the game, she was being singled out. The infamous off-ball hip check by Kennedy Carter was far from an isolated event. It was one of many deliberate, forceful hits aimed not just at stopping her but at sending a clear, intimidating message to the league's brightest star. Despite the clear risks to their biggest asset, the WNBA's response was perplexingly muted. Referees were erratic, enforcement was spotty, and at times, dangerously negligent. This lack of consistent officiating allowed a culture of unchecked physicality to take root, turning the court into a battleground where Clark stood alone, the target of a silent, brutal campaign. This wasn't just about player safety, it was a reckless gamble with the league's very future. The business model that hinged on Clark's extraordinary talent was put at risk by a system unwilling or unable to protect her. It's almost surreal to think that beyond a slick Nike commercial celebrating her rise, the league's actions, or lack thereof, betrayed just how precarious their success really was.
A Nike commercial, other than a Gatorade commercial. How many commercials have you seen of companies putting WNBA players as the face of their commercial? I can't think of one. The only commercial that comes to mind is the Paige Becker's Coach commercial, and they don't even put that on television. That seems to be strictly a League Pass commercial that they show us while we're watching WNBA on League Pass. Other than that, has there been any State Farm commercials not featuring Caitlin Clark that you've seen throughout this?
That reckless gamble didn't just backfire, it led to the complete unraveling of the league's golden asset. The catastrophic collapse now squarely falls on the shoulders of the WNBA's leadership, who failed to safeguard their most valuable player and, in turn, their future. Commissioner Cathy Engelbert now finds herself trapped in a nightmare of her own creation. Only months ago, she spoke with confidence about ambitious multi-million-dollar expansion plans, painting a picture of unstoppable growth and unprecedented revenue streams. In every interview, she touted the league's organic rise and its emergence as a bona fide powerhouse in the world of mainstream sports. But those projections now ring hollow. The foundation she celebrated is crumbling, and the tough questions about responsibility, oversight, and vision are coming fast and furious.
Oh, sports media is upset at the WNBA for what they've been doing to Caitlin Clark. You hear me? Depriving everybody from enjoying the game of basketball. You hear me? She put women basketball back on the map. Yes, the WNBA has been irrelevant. And I'm glad everybody is speaking up. Colin Cowherd, Jason Whitlock, Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless. Yeah, everybody upset. Bruh, like, these women, they so petty, bruh, and they don't even care, dog. They don't mind hurting themselves just to hurt you, bruh. That's crazy. By watching it
Today, Commissioner Engelbert faces a financial and public relations disaster of historic proportions. The growth strategy she so confidently championed now stands revealed as little more than a fragile illusion, one built precariously around a single player, and one the league failed to safeguard. Her once bold projections have been replaced by a stark reality: plunging ticket sales, vanishing television deals, and sponsors growing restless and distant. The momentum that once promised to catapult the WNBA into the sport's mainstream has stalled, leaving behind uncertainty and frustration. Ultimately, Engelbert's legacy won't be remembered for the league's brief moment in the spotlight. Instead, it will be defined by the magnitude of the missteps under her watch, the failure to protect the league's biggest star, and the collapse of what should have been its breakthrough moment. It's a cautionary tale about how fragile success can be when built on shaky foundations.
Similar reactions to the drastic change in ticket prices following Clark's injury. Because it's unwatchable without her, someone else added, did her injury deflate ticket prices or just prove she's the entire league's economy? Another person wrote, honestly, I'm surprised it isn't more than that. I would have guessed 50%. No matter what you think about Clark, she brings people to watch. We're lucky to be able to see her. I hope she comes back strong. You don't have to like her, but she is the headline and puts butts in the...
Beyond the visible signs, the empty arenas and the quiet broadcasts, a far more alarming crisis is quietly unfolding behind closed corporate doors. Major brands like Nike, Gatorade, and State Farm, who poured millions into the WNBA's rapid ascent, are now facing the harsh reality of vanishing returns. Caitlin Clark's jersey didn't just sell well, it soared to become the top-selling jersey across all sports the moment she burst onto the scene. But today, retailers are struggling to shift even basic WNBA merchandise. The buzz that once electrified the market has all but vanished, leaving shelves stocked with unsold inventory. This dramatic collapse has sent shockwaves through the world of sports sponsorship. Companies that once saw the league as a golden opportunity are now questioning their partnerships, hesitant to invest further in what looks increasingly like a fading flame. Behind the scenes, conversations are shifting from optimism to damage control, as the WNBA's financial ecosystem faces an uncertain and perilous future.
Understand why anyone in the WNBA picks on Caitlin Clark. I mean, I think we're kind of over that phase. I think people just know she is that person for the league, but she is literally the reason they're flying planes, charter planes to games. Like, she is the reason that they're on ESPN consistently. They're not on ION all the time. They're on ESPN, especially once the NBA playoffs end. They're on ESPN all the time. Like, that was not the case before Caitlin Clark arrived. And it still puzzles me that like one player transformed the league and like she was the chosen one. We've talked about that all the time here. But the bottom line is she legitimately is.
Now, companies are reportedly reevaluating their commitments, realizing that their investments were tied less to the league itself and more to the star power of a single player. This isn't just a financial setback, it's a strategic crisis that threatens the very future of the WNBA. Even more alarming is how this collapse will impact the league's upcoming media rights negotiations. The WNBA was counting on the Clark effect to lock in a billion-dollar deal that could finally push the league into profitability. But with that leverage gone, they're heading to the bargaining table with a broken product, one that has lost its brightest beacon, and the groundbreaking deal they hoped for is now slipping out of reach. Perhaps the most tragic part of this story is that much of it was self-inflicted. Instead of rallying around the transcendent talent lifting the entire league, a troubling undercurrent of resentment took hold. The physicality Clark faced often crossed the line from fierce competition into what felt like punishment for her popularity. Pundits, commentators, and even some veteran players pushed back against the spotlight she commanded, spinning a narrative that the WNBA didn't need a savior. This internal friction created a toxic culture, one that failed to protect its most valuable asset and, in some ways, seemed to undermine her success. The league held the winning ticket, the golden opportunity to secure its future for decades, but through short-sightedness and internal conflict, they let it slip through their fingers. Worse, some may have actively contributed to the conditions that led to its downfall. What we're witnessing now is the raw, unvarnished truth of the marketplace. The WNBA's record-breaking surge was not a sign of a broad-based breakthrough for women's basketball. It was the Caitlin Clark show. And with the star gone, the audience has left the arena. Falling ticket prices, vanishing media coverage, plummeting ratings, and wary sponsors all tell the same story. Without Clark, the league is retreating to what it was for nearly 30 years, a niche sport struggling for attention in a saturated, unforgiving sports landscape. The uncomfortable reality is plain for all to see. Her absence didn't just damage the league, it revealed the uncomfortable truth that she was the league. Now, as the WNBA plunges back toward obscurity, the haunting question remains. It's no longer if the league can reach those heights again, but whether it has already wasted its best shot at becoming a major force in American sports.